How to lose belly fat? Hidden abdominal obesity. Do you only know diets and counting calories from stories? Most of us declare that we run for health and to improve our well-being. Sure, but don't say you don't want a better figure either. The thickness of the layer that will accumulate under the skin does not have to prove whether you are at risk of obesity. Subcutaneous fat versus visceral fat. Many studies have shown that waist fat, associated with abdominal obesity, is the most unfavorable for health. The term aneroid obesity is also often used. This obesity is typical for men, but also occurs at some point in life in women, the researcher explains. Subcutaneous fat is obviously not very aesthetic, but at least not very harmful. Visceral fat is fat that surrounds the organs. Though it is not visible from the outside, it is associated with numerous diseases. The distribution of adipose tissue in the abdominal area is associated with many health complications. They are primarily diabetes, hypertension, coronary artery disease. Fat tissue, located around the thighs and buttocks, is typical for women in the reproductive period and is sometimes called pear. However, as it turns out, science provides women with arguments that should make them look more gently at their hips. Does fat protect the heart? In gynoid obesity, fat accumulates under the skin, not in the abdominal cavity. Research has shown that this type of fat distribution has cardioprotective or heart protective effects. Many people with such a distribution of adipose tissue have been observed to have a similar lipid profile as people with a normal body weight without obesity. It is referred to in this case as the so-called healthier obesity. This does not mean that the pear shape always has normal cholesterol test results, but they will always be more beneficial to health than apple's shape of the same body weight. Metabolic obesity. Another interesting phenomenon is the so-called metabolic obesity with normal body weight. Such people have an above-average accumulation of fat tissue at the waist with a concomitant BMI below 18.5. Waist circumference corresponds to that of people with abdominal obesity, and they have a higher risk of cardiovascular disease. Such obesity is so dangerous that it is completely imperceptible. Why is visible fat under the skin protecting heart health, and why is visceral fat so dangerous? In fact, adipose tissue is very metabolically and hormonally active. Not only stores energy during hunger, but also secretes substances that increase the risk of heart disease, diabetes, and inflammation. How to burn visceral fat? The accumulation of fat is influenced by behavioral factors, like lifestyle and nutrition, as well as genetics. Obesity is multifactorial, so if you have a genetic predisposition, you also have a bad diet, and are not physically active, you may be at risk of it. Lack of exercise can be a sufficient stimulus for the accumulation of adipose tissue between the organs, just like a passion for fast food or sweets. Evolution has not adapted the human organism to the benefits of the 21st century. For example, recent reports in the Journal of Nutrition indicate that excess fructose in soda is one of the allies of visceral fat. It doesn't take much to get over your full body fat, and fat cells can easily attach themselves to your internal organs if you allow it. The question of how to get rid of visceral fat? There is one positive news. When you start fighting fat and your weapon is movement, the deep tissue burns first. At the same time, this is obviously bad news for people battling mostly visible fat. Remember, health is the most important thing. So don't worry that your first fat loss training session won't get you squeezed into a pair of jeans. The body itself feels what is dangerous, so in the first place, gets rid of visceral fat. According to some researchers, there is a mechanism. If someone was fat from childhood but physically active, then he or she comes to a kind of adaptation that protects against adverse complications. Such a person has good results in terms of lipid profile, glucose, insulin. This concept explains why some visibly obese people don't have serious cardiovascular problems. Other more advanced studies say that there is a mechanism that causes excess calories stored in fat in our body and these people to be deposited under the skin, and not go to the liver, for example. They do not develop a belly that is dangerous to their health. But once we recognize our enemy, what fighting strategy should we adopt? Drastic diets are certainly effective, but the question is, for how long and who will stick to them? For runners, a study from Duke University brings good news. According to them, people who walk 17 kilometers a week maintain the level of visceral fat at a constant level. How to burn belly fat, rational reduction. Magical ways to burn fat from critical parts, like the abdomen, thighs and buttocks, are myths that have been preserved in our consciousness and have no real justification. The degree and scope of fat burning depend on the individual predispositions of each of us. By performing 1,000 sit-ups a day, we can only strengthen muscles or contract serious injuries. If you want a fit body, you need to combine two factors: a reduction diet and proper training. Rational slimming predicts a loss of 0.5 to 1%. Your current body weight during the week. All macronutrients should not be missing from your menu. Complex carbohydrates are provided by rice, sweet potatoes, whole grain pasta, cereals and oatmeal, lean proteins, poultry, tofu, fish and eggs, and healthy fats, olive oil, rapeseed oil, nuts or avocado. Planning your meals throughout the day will help you regulate and speed up your metabolic processes. One of the methods of supporting fat burning is also supplements. How to burn belly fat, not just crunches. Interval training is the best method to reduce belly fat. Intervals, like high-intensity exercise, alternating with a short break to rest, lead to a greater release of growth hormone, which is mainly responsible for reducing body fat and building muscle. What's more, it has been proven that interval training has a positive effect on the hypothalamic pituitary adrenal axis, which manages the level of hormones in our body. Remember that the key to success is activity tailored to our capabilities. If you are a complete amateur, instead of sprints and jogging, choose a walking interval where 2 to 3 minutes is a quick pace and 1 to 2 minutes is a slow pace. As you progress, you can start running, cycling, weight training, running uphill or upstairs. Cardio exercises are great for weight reduction, but if you want strong muscles, add strength exercises to them. Your training should primarily be based on multi-joint exercises, such as squats, lunges, bench presses or pull-ups. They should be performed with a relatively heavy weight. The recommended exercises to strengthen the abdominal muscles include classic crunches, plank, bike, and even push-ups. How to burn belly fat, night regeneration. Another issue that should not be forgotten, and unfortunately that is often the case, is regeneration. Too little sleep is correlated with high amounts of body fat, especially around the abdomen. Lack of sleep or its poor quality leads to changes in the circadian rhythm, which results in hormone disturbances. When your circadian rhythm is disturbed, your body does not produce enough growth hormone to stimulate the growth of muscles, bones and joint cartilage. It also strengthens the process of converting adipose tissue into free fatty acids that circulate in the blood and are used as a source of energy. Lack of sleep increases the level of the stress hormone. Sleepless nights can lead to overtraining and injury. When arranging a plan of physical activity, remember about the minimum 8-hour dose of sleep and regeneration. Training like liposuction. The optimal solution is a diet combined with physical activity. At the same time, regular physical activity is important, as it will become a permanent component of the lifestyle, stabilizing the metabolic rate. The body's priority is to get rid of belly fat. You don't need to panic about having excess fat in other areas of your body closer to your skin. This does not mean that all your workouts are going to waste, but it may be worth slightly modifying them. The most effective in combating abdominal fat is guaranteed by high-intensity interval training. There are also other methods with proven effectiveness. For example, resistance training has been shown to help in getting rid of airbags from internal organs. 1-hour training 3 times a week did not reduce body weight, but it did reduce the amount of visceral fat by up to 60%. So it's time to stop measuring only the cosmetic effects of training and just believe that with every effort you are undergoing internal liposuction for your health. Are you at risk of excess belly fat? If you answer yes to the questions below, you may have trouble with hidden fat, and you should not only start exercising and change your diet but also see a doctor. Are you a physically inactive person? Are you eating unhealthy? Does your waist circumference exceed 80 centimeters for women and 94 centimeters for men? Divide the waist circumference by the hip circumference. Comes out more than 0.9? Remember, 33% of the visceral fat returns 1 year after losing weight in the absence of constant physical activity. 1 cup of green tea a day supports deep fat burning training. People with excess visceral fat at the age of 40 are 2 to 3 times more likely to develop symptoms of dementia at the age of 70. 30 minutes of walking a day 6 times a week allow you to maintain a constant level of visceral fat in non-obese people. 80 minutes of aerobic or resistance training a week keeps fat levels in people who keep weight loss. Tools to fight the invisible enemy. Get rid of deep fat stores, even if you don't think you have any. Match the type of fat-burning workout to your level of training, then go to work. Intensive intervals. For whom? People at a good level of training. Why? A study from the University of Virginia found that exercise is most effective at burning visceral fat. How? 8 times 400 meters with an intensity that prevents conversation, interspersed with 2 minutes of rest, 3 to 5 times a week. Tempo runs. For whom? People returning from an injury or just getting into regular training. Why? According to researchers from University College London, an hour of exercise 3 times a week eliminates up to 60% of visceral fat. How? 1.5 kilometers easy running, 3 kilometers with an intensity that makes it difficult to talk freely, slower again 1.5 kilometers and another 3 faster kilometers, finish 1.5 kilometers jog.